What's up? This is Trey T, and today I'm going to be discussing how I feel the NFL draft needs to be changed. I'll start off by saying this. Basketball is my favorite sport to play, but the NFL is my favorite sport to watch. I love the NFL, but the NFL has a lot of things about it that I do not like. One thing I do not like about the NFL, I made a video about this yesterday. I don't like the way the NFL playoff is constructed. I feel like it should be a 16-team playoff with 8 on the AFC side and 8 on the NFC side. But if you want to hear more about that, go check out my other video about the NFL playoff format needs to be changed. But the other thing that I don't like about the NFL is I don't like how they double reward the winners and reward the losers. And when I say double reward, I mean the teams that finish with the number 1 seed in the AFC and the NFC, you already have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. That's your reward for winning all those games. You don't need to be double rewarded by getting a bye for the first week of the playoffs. Professional teams shouldn't get byes in playoffs and tournaments. The other thing is, I don't like that you can play horribly in the regular season, and as a reward for your horrible play, we're going to give you the number 1 pick. You get to go and draft a college player, and it's going to be that college player's job to come turn your sorry franchise around. And then the thing that makes me so mad about that process is it's usually a quarterback that they pick for the first round pick. And when that quarterback comes in and they can't change that franchise, which has been horrible for years, they can't change their franchise around and be successful in 3 or 4 years, the quarterback is considered a bust somehow because he was put in a horrible situation. I don't like that. I don't feel like that's right. Regardless of what your record was during the regular season, I feel all 32 teams, every single team in the NFL deserves a shot at the number 1 pick. It don't matter if you made the playoffs, don't matter if you missed the playoffs, don't matter if you won 0 games, won 1 game. It don't matter if you won the Super Bowl. All 32 teams should have a shot at the number 1 draft pick. And the thing about it is, even if you do get, like, let's say you made the playoffs and you made it to the championship game or you won the Super Bowl. The thing is, see, this is what makes me mad. People say, well, we're rewarding the losers to try to help them make their team better so they can't be sorry the next year. But you also got to remember, a lot of teams that go deep in the playoffs or win the Super Bowl, hardly any of those teams ever come back 100% the very next year with 100% of the same players. Like, when teams win Super Bowls, a lot of those players feel like, hey, I got my ring now, my stock then went up. Now I can go make some money somewhere else. So they might leave a key player may leave that team because they already feel like, well, I got a championship now. Now I could go focus on getting some money. Perfect example. The Rams just won the Super Bowl. Von Miller was drafted in 2011. It's 2022. Von Miller been in the league, 11 years now? He could have easily came back to the Rams. I would have loved it if he would have came back to the Broncos. But Von Miller was like, hey, let me see if it's I already got. Von Miller won a Super Bowl with the Broncos and won a Super Bowl with the Rams. He was probably thinking, well, I already got 2 Super Bowls now. I could easily come back and try to win another one with the Rams, or I can see how much money somebody else gonna offer me to play for them. Because I got 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams. So it's going to be people looking at me. And boom, he ended up in Buffalo. I think Buffalo paid Von Miller $40 million. It was so many people that thought Von Miller was done. He was washed up. And Buffalo just gave Von Miller $40 million. So a lot of even look at Ndamukong Suh. He haven't re-signed with Tampa Bay yet, I don't think. So just because you win the Super Bowl, it doesn't look what Antonio Brown. They won the Super Bowl. He ended up being gone. He quit the next season. Just because you win the Super Bowl, it don't mean you coming back the very next year with 100% of the same players. Even though Tampa Bay did do that, they brought everybody back, and they didn't even make the Super Bowl last year. So that's why I feel all 32 teams should get an opportunity to get that number one seed, because they can use that to replace players that they may lose, or they don't even have to pick a player. They can always use that in the draft to trade with somebody else for some players. Oh, I got the number one pick. I'll give you the number one pick, but you got to give me some players for this pick. You can always do that. They don't have to use the pick. They can always trade the pick away. Like, okay, I'll trade you the number one pick, but you got to give me your number one and your number two pick or something like that. I just don't like that teams can have a bad season, can go 2-15, 2-14, however many games in the regular season. And then, hey, we'll give you the number one pick. And they get that number one pick. And then the next year they go 3-14 or 4-12 or something like that. So what was you got the number one pick. You didn't do anything with it. But you won 1 or 2 more games. Wow, that really made a difference. So I feel all 32 teams should have an opportunity for the number one pick. But then I would go, the teams that had the 10 worst records, I would put them in a lottery to see who gets picks 2 through 11. That would still, I feel like that would help cut down on tanking. Because even if you tanked, you don't know for sure that you'll get you don't know if you go get the second pick or the number 11 pick. So it's like that. Like if you tanked, you knew for sure, oh, well, I'm getting a top 5 pick. If I lose like 13 games, I'll probably get a top 5 pick. But now if you tank, you may mess around, get the 10th pick or the 11th pick. So that's how I would do like the second through the 11th pick. It would be a lottery between the bottom 10 teams. So that's teams like Detroit and Houston and teams like that, to see where they would draft, instead of, okay, Jacksonville had the worst record, Detroit had the second worst record, so they get the number 2 pick, Jacksonville get the number 1 pick, Chicago had the third worst record, so they get the number 3 pick. No, I wouldn't do that shit, because so many of these teams have had great top 10 picks throughout the years and are still trash in like a 10, 15, 20 year period. Even with having so many top 10 picks, they may have had 1 or 2 winning seasons in like 15 or 20 years. That is ridiculous. It's time to change that. Stop rewarding trash teams that don't do anything with these picks. And these players end up going to these trash organizations instead of going to a good organization where they could have had a longer career, made more money, and built generational wealth for their families. But no, you send them to these horrible organizations where they can't turn around these franchises. The fans start to boo them. They get hate. Then boom, they're out of the NFL in 2 or 3 years, and they got to go back and end up they worked so hard to get to the NFL just to be put in a horrible situation. It don't matter how good that player can be, great, but just be on the wrong team. Again, we saw what Matthew Stafford did. Matthew Stafford was on a Lions team that went 0-16. Calvin Johnson was on that team that went 0-16. These are Hall of Fame players. But they wasted their careers away in Detroit. You saw what Matt Stafford did once he got with a good team. He took them to the Super Bowl his very first year. You can't have, then everybody want to call, well, that player's sorry. Dude, look what he was in. Look at the situation you put him in. It's so many people that were labeled bust that if they would have went to a better situation, they would have had way better and longer careers. Also, I got to correct something. I just made the mistake of saying Matthew Stafford was on a Lions team that went 0-16. But the Lions actually went 0-16, and because of that, they were able to draft Matthew Stafford the next year. Calvin Johnson was on that team. Matt Stafford was not on the 0-16 team. So I just had to correct. I had to think about it. Then I just went and looked it up. And Matthew Stafford came in the next year. They were able to draft Matthew Stafford after going 0-16. I'm going to give a couple of examples of teams who have had multiple top 10 first-round picks and did absolutely nothing with them. Like, they didn't succeed at all with these picks. Maybe they're just bad at drafting players. Who knows? But they did absolutely nothing with these picks. So first, you got the Cleveland Browns. This is all these teams. These drafts are going back to 1999. So since 1999, look how many first round top 10 picks Cleveland has had. If you are not that familiar with the NFL, you probably never even heard of most of these people. If you aren't that familiar with the NFL, the only ones on this list you may have heard of is probably Baker Mayfield, Myles Garrett, and maybe Joe Thomas and Joe Hayden. Other than that, a lot of people probably had never heard of, if you're not familiar with the NFL, you probably never heard of Tim Couch, Courtney Brown, Gerald Warren. And then the crazy thing is, this is 13 top 10 picks for the Browns. And in those 13 picks, they only had a win. With those 13 picks since 1999, the Browns have had a winning season 3 times. The Browns have had 3, just think about that, 3 winning seasons since 1999. That's 23 years. You've had 3 winning seasons, but you had 13 top 10 picks. Next, you have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Since 1999, the Jacksonville Jaguars have had 17 top 10 picks. I'm only going to count 16 because the 17th was picked this year, and they haven't played a game yet, so I'm not going to count that one. So with 16 draft picks since 1999, the Jaguars have only had 5 winning seasons. So Cleveland had 3 winning seasons since 1999. They had 13 top 10 picks. Jacksonville had 5 winning seasons since 1999. They had 16 top 10 picks. I'm going to be honest, for a receiver named Reggie Williams, I've never heard of Reggie Williams a day in my life. I've never heard of anybody named Reggie Williams in the NFL ever in my life. Next, you have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have had 15 top 10 picks since 1999. I'm only going to count 14. So with 14 picks, because the other one just got drafted this year. So with 14 top 10 picks, the Lions have only, since 1999, 14 top 10 picks, the Lions have had a winning season 5 times. So in 23 years, with 14 top 10 picks, the Lions had 5 winning seasons. And just look at those last 3 right there. Calvin Johnson, Matthew Stafford, and Ndamukong Suh. All 3 of those could be Hall of Famers in the future. Calvin Johnson already in the Hall of Fame. Matthew Stafford could get in, and Ndamukong Suh could get in. And they wasted away their careers, their prime years in Detroit. Barry Sanders wasted away his career in Detroit. Matthew Stafford finally left Detroit after like 12 years, went to the Rams and won a Super Bowl his first year leaving Detroit. Next, you have the Miami Dolphins. Compared to like the Lions and the Browns, the Dolphins aren't as pathetic as those franchises. In the last 23 years, since 1999, the Dolphins have only had 7 top 10 picks, and they made the playoffs 10 times in those 23 years. So that's nothing compared to the Browns making it 3 times. I mean, having 3 winning seasons, and the Lions having 5 winning seasons. At least the Dolphins did have 10 winning seasons since 1999. And things are at least looking up for the Dolphins. They got Tua, they got Jalen Waddle, and now they just traded for Tyreek Hill. So things may be looking up for the Lions compared to Cleveland. They may be looking up. I don't know about Detroit. I still think Detroit is just like a wasteland for players to go to. Next, you have the Houston Texans, who are actually the youngest franchise in the NFL because they didn't become a franchise. They used to be the Houston Oilers. Then the Oilers became the Titans, so Houston had to get their own team. So they became the Houston Texans in 2002. So it says since 99, but I just had that set for all of them. So for the Texans, it's since 2002. Since 2002, the Texans have had 7 top 10 draft picks. I'm only going to count 6 because the 7th was drafted this year. So in 2002, so in 20 years, the Texans have actually had better success than the Lions and the Browns. The Texans have had 8 winning seasons since the team was formed in 2002, compared to the Browns having 3 winning seasons in 23 years, and the Lions only having 5 winning seasons in 23 years. And the Texans actually they had some good picks. You had Andre Johnson. I think because the Texans were so young, David Carr was put in a horrible situation because they were a new team. So I feel like he would have probably had better success going to a better team. But hey, see, this is exactly why I feel like all 32 teams should have an opportunity for the number 1 pick. Just because they won the Super Bowl or made the playoffs or went to the conference championship game or whatever, it don't mean they shouldn't be able to get the number 1 pick just because they had success and you rewarding teams that played horribly. They should be, you trying to make the horrible teams better. Who's to say that I'm going to repeat next year? I got to make my team better too. So I should have a chance to get the number 1 pick. For example, okay, Kansas City won the Super Bowl in 2019. Then in the 2020 draft, Kansas City, they had a great offense, but defense is what they needed. They could have drafted Chase Young in that draft. Or if they wanted, other than Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill to throw to, they could have drafted Jerry Jeudy. They could have drafted Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. They could have helped build that offensive line and drafted Tristan Wirfs. They could have drafted T. Higgins at receiver, Brandon Ayuk at receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., Chase Claypool, Jalen Reagor, Henry Ruggs, who's in jail for speeding and accidentally killing a lady because he wanted to speed. But he could have been put in that situation where he could have been drafted by the Chiefs. And maybe that don't happen instead of being drafted by the Raiders. But hey, that's why I feel like all 32 teams should have a chance at that number 1 pick. Same with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl 2020. 2021 draft comes around. You don't know how long Tom Brady's going to be in the NFL. They could have drafted Trevor Lawrence to replace Tom Brady whenever Tom Brady decided he was done. You would have already had Trevor Lawrence sitting behind Tom Brady for no matter how many years. Then you could have put him in, and then you would have already had great receivers. If you didn't want to go the quarterback route, you could have gave Tom Brady Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle to throw to. Or Gronkowski was getting old. You could have replaced him with Kyle Pitts. You could have went defense and got Patrick Surtain Jr. or Asante Samuel Jr. You could have replaced Leonard Fournette with Najee Harris and Javonte Williams. You could have got another receiver in Devontae Smith. You could have went linebacker with Micah Parsons. But because they feel like, oh, well, Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, they got to pick dead last now. Like, that's stupid. Stop rewarding teams for losing games. The Cleveland Browns are perfect examples of that. They have had 13 top 10 picks since 1999 and have only had 3 winning seasons. Stop giving these losing teams top draft picks and they don't do shit with them. These players end up going to these organizations and wasting their fucking careers. Stop doing that shit. So there you have it. That's my video on how I feel like the NFL draft needs to change. As always, thank you for watching. Like and comment. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Trey T out. Peace.